Welcome to the Painted Peach. I'm Mary, and you are watching Candy Cane Lane, hosted by Shabby Meets Bling, Up All Night DIY, and Indie Annie Jones. This is DIY number 1. I am creating a candy cane book stack. I am starting out with a red and white, and I'm going to paint 2 of these blocks red and 1 white. I cut these blocks out of some scrap wood from some of my other kit cutouts, and I just cut them all the same. Well, maybe they're the same size. They're not perfect, but it's okay. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But I'm just going to paint these 2 red and then the other one white, and then we're going to start decorating them. All right, they're all painted and dry. The white one's going to go on top of the red, and this red one will go on top of the white. But first, we are going to do some stenciling. So I'm going to use a couple different stencils. The first one I'm going to use is kind of like a candy stripe, and I'm going to use it on the top book. So it'll be on the very top of the book stack. So I'm just placing the stencil on the top, making sure it's good and secure on there, and then I'll get my paste and go over it with just a little bit of paste. You don't have to use a whole lot, and typically I just pick it up and move it around. That way you don't have to dip your squeegee as much anyway. Now I'm just going to make sure that is nice and dry, and then we are going to use a different stencil. So the stencil that we're going to use on the front of the books, this one is really made for making cards, but I, think it works perfectly for this. It's small letters, and I picked out Good Tidings for You and Yours, I believe it is. So I'll put Good on the first book, Tidings on the second book, and then the rest will go on the last book. I'm going to use red on the white, of course, because white won't show up, and then I'll use the white on the red. I want to take a moment to remind you that this is a playlist, and you can find that link over in my description, as well as the tags for each of the hosts. All right, we're going to clean up a little bit, get our books back over here, and do some touching up. And then we are going to get some ribbon out once we glue these together. So I'm going to glue the red one and the white one together. I need to do some touching up on that white. I touched my red paint with it. And then we're going to glue the top one to the white. Now I have this ribbon. It's a little too wide for what I want, so I'm using some hot glue to make it smaller, just folding it over itself, and I wanted the white to be on each end. And then I'm just hot gluing that onto my book stack, wrapping it around. I'm not going underneath because it will make it not sit upright. So it's just going on the sides and the top, and then we'll cut off the extra. And there it is, all cute. Now we're getting out some foam clay, and I'm gonna make a candy cane. So I just form a little candy cane out, and then I get some red and white paint out, and we paint it up and use it on our book stack. I then decided I needed 2 to make them into a heart, so I created another, and then I glued them on right in the front where the ribbon is. You can paint foam clay when it's still wet, but you just have to be really careful when applying it. Now I'm just taking some velvet ribbon and making a little bow for the top of the book stack, and we are all done. And here's how it turned out. It is simple but very cute, and I think it will look nice displayed on a tier tray or anywhere you would like. All right, here's DIY number 2. I have this board I got from Hobby Lobby in the wood section, and I'm just painting the whole thing with some Imperial Red. And then I'm going to take some of my wood glue and add it in different areas on the board. I don't want it everywhere, just in certain areas. I'm also going to take some of my chapstick and add it in certain areas. This is a Vaseline based chapstick, so it acts as the same as Vaseline and it helps do the chippy effect. So I'm going to have crackle and chippy, hopefully, when we get through with this. So now I am adding aqua to the top and making sure I've got everything covered as much as I can. The Vaseline will make it where it won't cover those areas. And then I'm just going to dry, and I already see the crackles coming out. Once you get done, you'll have crackle on there. Sometimes the glue, if you scrape, it will pull off more than you want. But I did want to scrape the parts where I put the Vaseline, so I just kind of wiped over it, made sure I got the excess glue off of there, and kept on going. I then took my Gator sander and went over the whole thing to make sure there wasn't any crummy paint on there, because I'm going to use a stencil. So I have this big giant stencil from Chalk Couture that you're supposed to make a porch leaner with, and I'm just cutting off a piece of it because I want that candy cane lane. And I go through a few steps with this. I first started with some paint and it bled, so then I went over it with some red chalk paste, and then I went back over it with some white chalk paste. So you'll see 3 different times I use this transfer. I clean it once in between, and it looks like it's fine there, but there's a lot of bleeding and I did not like it. So after it's over, I wish I kind of just left it like this, but you know, sometimes we do what we do. So here I am going over it with the red chalk paste, and some of that white gets mixed in there. It's still not to my liking once I pull this up, so I make sure it's good and dry, and then I clean my stencil and I go right back over it again with some white. All right, try number 3. Here is the white chalk paste, going over the whole thing and then scraping off the excess and then pulling up, and this is what we ended up with. I like it, but I still wish I kind of went with the first white that we did. Now I'm going to get out some ribbons and we're going to add a bow to our sign. I start out with this red tool that I've had forever. I don't know why I have the red tool, probably from an old tutu that I made my daughter or something, but I don't typically use tools, so using it up on this was a great idea. So I'm just making a little bow out of it and then cutting it on each side, making it a little bit smaller than it was. I'm using these curly ribbons on here as well. I got those in the Christmas section, I believe, and they were on clearance at one point. I think I got them last year. And we are going to add those and this tool on here for a cute little bow. I'm going to use my stapler to put the bow on just so I know it's good and secure. I used some tulle to go all the way across the board just to make it look like it's tied on. And then we're going to add the rest of the ribbons in with the one in the back. Now I'm just doing a little bit of touching up in the areas that were from the paint bleeding, and then I'm getting out some more clay. So this is foam clay again, and we're going to make a much bigger candy cane, and that is going to be added onto our sign. We're also going to make some small candies to go with it as well, and we're going to attach them all to the sign just to add a little bit of embellishment. So I just used some hot glue to attach it on there, and once that foam clay dries, it does harden up. It's very lightweight. I'm adding a little hanger to the back of my sign and putting a little piece of fabric there to make sure it stays. And then I'm just making a few candies, and here it is all finished up. I hope that you love it. I know I do. The red and the aqua together is such a pretty matchup for Christmas. And here is our book stack and our Candy Cane Lane sign, along with another sign I created. Today's video was a part of the Candy Cane Lane playlist hosted by Shabby Meets Bling, Up All Night DIY, and Indie Annie Jones. Make sure you check out their pages. And if you like my video, please think of giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, and hitting that bell. And as always, stay peachy.